Penn State leads Notre Dame at the half 10-3. The Nittany Lions are controlling the line of scrimmage. The offensive line is doing its job. The ground game looks fantastic, but Drew Allar, in that same breath, looks a little shaky.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. My name is Zach Seyko. I'm your host of this live show, Penn State leading Notre Dame 10-3. And because it's a live show, bring your comments, your questions, your reactions in this opening segment. I will talk about and share my thoughts, my takeaways from the first half of this one, and then we'll bring you into the conversation for the second half of this show. Penn State looks like the better team. Penn State legitimately looks like the better team. Notre Dame's defense does not look like that elite presence. Now, they still are, but the offense, what is normally able to play some complementary football, allow the defense to rest and not let the opposing offense get into rhythm. Penn State is doing that to Notre Dame. The ground game, Singleton, Allen, Andy Kotelnicki, arguably the best play calling that I've seen since that USC game. Andy Kotelnicki is in his bag. He is getting everybody comfortable except for Drew Allar. The biggest concern for this game so far and for Penn State to close out a victory is if Drew Allar can settle in, because Penn State is doing everything well. The front five in pass pro and in run blocking are doing their job. Notre Dame's defensive line is all but ineffective. Wide receivers, to an extent, that's going to be a tough matchup on the outside against those defensive backs, whether it's Moore, whether it's Gray for Notre Dame. Those guys are extremely talented. And Penn State's wide receivers they're doing well enough, right? This wasn't going to be their kind of game. Tyler Warren, it has been really effective to this point, but it is going to hinge on if Drew Allar can, the big mistake is one thing, but I look at the fact that you had an easy, wide open walk-in touchdown to Nicholas Singleton, and Singleton could catch that, or Allar can hit him right in the numbers when he's 5 yards away. That's a routine ball. These other wheel routes where running backs and Tyler Warren and these guys are getting wide open in between two defenders, and all Drew has to do is drop it in. That play, fortunately, it was a hold, but that should have been an interception in the end zone, and Penn State gets it was a defensive holding. I'm not trying to debate the call. What I am trying to debate is the break that Penn State gets. If Notre Dame doesn't hold on that play, Drew just does not look like himself. He needs to settle in. It hasn't cost Penn State to this point, but in a game where the margin of error is so razor thin, and you don't come away down in the red zone with an extra 4 points, this should be 14-3. Singleton was wide open for a walk-in touchdown because Andy Kotelnicki is winning the chess match against Al Golden and then some. He is taking his breakfast, lunch, and dinner money from Al Golden. Andy Kotelnicki, basically everybody on Penn State is doing a job. Even a one-handed Abdul Carter, a one-armed Abdul Carter is wreaking havoc defensively, is going above and beyond his expectations. Oh, he's supposed to be 70 or 80%. He looks like 110%, even with that arm wrapped up. Drew Allar is just not having his best game. And hopefully that doesn't hold Penn State back from a victory. I think you can defeat this Notre Dame team if Allar doesn't have his best game. But I'd even argue that second throw to Singleton, they missed another touchdown. So Drew Allar needs to settle in. I said that whichever quarterback settles in first, whether it's Allar or Riley Leonard, and now Riley Leonard is banged up. I want to share some thoughts about that because that actually does concern me a little bit about the backup quarterback for the Fighting Irish, Steve Angeli. But it was going to be which quarterback settled in sooner. Was it going to be Riley Leonard or was it going to be Drew Allar? And so far it's been neither, but now Steve Angeli comes in, looks rather efficient. Backup quarterback for Notre Dame. Now here's why this is a big deal. Angeli is 6 of 7 for 44 yards, no turnovers or anything like that, and it's 10-3 at half. Penn State, that's a victory in itself to keep them from scoring a touchdown, but honestly, Notre Dame probably looks at that as a victory too, because they were able to sneak some points on the board, and then they get the kickoff to start the second half. So a win for Penn State, a full win, would have been keeping them off the scoreboard, period. But why this is a big deal is because Penn State just spent over a week planning for Riley Leonard and his ability to, and I'm not saying you can't make adjustments, but it's certainly going to be difficult because this is an element of surprise. This is essentially unexpected. Riley Leonard and Steve Angeli are two different quarterbacks. They are complete opposites of one another. Riley Leonard is this dual threat, physical quarterback that's going to opt to use his legs more often than not. You have to be aware for the QB run, you stack the box. But now Steve Angeli is going to look to pass the ball. He's going to target his receivers. He's going to try to work the pocket, whereas Riley Leonard will opt to tuck it and run the football. And Penn State's game plan, the way Tom Allen schemed up for Riley Leonard, it was working to perfection. Now Riley Leonard goes out. Can you construct a game plan now in give or take 20, 25 minutes at halftime to adjust for Steve Angeli? If Riley Leonard does not come back in this ball game, he looks shaken up. He looks like he's possibly concussed. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to try to pretend to be, but that was a bad hit to the ground that he sustained. So Steve Angeli, to at least change momentum and change things up for Notre Dame, actually helps them, if you can believe that. Yes, the starting quarterback for Notre Dame going out is actually helping the Fighting Irish in this case. And I'd like to see Riley Leonard back in just because I want to see the best on the best against Penn State and Notre Dame. I don't want to see a player get injured, but just keep an eye on that. Because Angeli is such a different type of quarterback, Penn State defensively, Tom Allen have to try to develop this new game plan, and Notre Dame now has this element of surprise. But overall, Penn State looks like the better team. If you can get Drew Aller to settle in, hit some other passes, you need to turn Notre Dame away. If you can hold them to a field goal and keep this at 10-6, and then you go down and score once again, you just have to keep Notre Dame at an arm's length. But now, even if you do have that lead, Angeli can start to lead an aerial attack. Riley Leonard is just not that capable of a passer. And the biggest key in all of this was Penn State, if they build a lead, specifically a double-digit or a two-score lead, they can win this game. Because Notre Dame is not built to play from behind. With Angeli in, now they kind of are. But we'll see how that impacts the running game, because that is Notre Dame's leading rusher. Now they won't get to go into their bread and butter more consistently. Jeremiah Lovesbank, you just lost effectively your two rushers. Even if Riley Leonard does come back in, he's not going to be 100%. That was a pretty hefty hit that he took. And Jeremiah Love not being 100%. They're getting something from Aeneas Williams and Jadarian Price, somewhat. And Aeneas Williams mostly in the passing game there. But Notre Dame is certainly going to have to go off script here, and Penn State's going to have to find a way to adjust. This was a rock fight. We were fully expecting this. It's going to be on it's going to be on the offenses because the defenses are playing so soundly. Al Golden even though Andy Kotelnicki is winning the chess match, Al Golden still has Penn State held to 10 points. Okay, so Penn State isn't moving the football as well as it could be. I mean, 5 yards per play is not fantastic here. So I like what I've seen so far. I still have my concerns because this middle eight, which James Franklin emphasizes, is going to be extremely important here for Penn State. If they can make the adjustments and still game plan for the run while anticipating a little more of a pass, then Penn State, Angeli's not bad. But this gives Notre Dame something. Because they did not look like the Notre Dame of old with Riley Leonard in at quarterback. So that's my initial analysis. I think that Penn State still can win this game. I'm not saying that Angeli leads this magical comeback and takes over the game, but he definitely adds a different element if you are not prepared for it. So Tom Allen and Penn State's defense got to get to work. Second half adjustments have been the storyline for Penn State all season long, so this is nothing new here. Abdul Carter's playing a fantastic game. So is Denai Dennis Sutton. That's that Zane Durant. That is that vaunted Notre Dame offensive line. Even with the injuries, the guys that have come in as backups have still played very well. And Penn State's front four is still dominating at the point of attack. We're going to get your thoughts, get your comments and reactions to the first half of this game coming up next here on a live Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. This message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Are you tired of endless waiting, wondering, and worrying about your taxes? Well, that's now a thing of the past. You see, taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. TurboTax is here to change the game by matching you with a TurboTax expert who can get to work on your return right away. No more waiting for answers, no more wondering if you're missing out on deductions. Whether you've got one form or 20, TurboTax experts give your taxes to their undivided attention. While you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on what really matters, you won't have to lift a finger, but you'll get the peace of mind knowing that your taxes are being handled by the pros. Are you ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert who's ready to take your taxes off your plate so you can focus on your day. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service, real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Today's live episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's right, guaranteed. $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. And if we look over at FanDuel.com, so Penn State actually moved from a 1.5-point underdog to a 1.5-point favorite at the open of this game. Well, there's another semifinal game going on. If you were interested in Ohio State versus Texas, Ohio State is a 5.5-point favorite, minus 235 on the money line, plus 190 if you're thinking Texas. The total is set at 52.5. A little more points expected in that game rather than this one. Just head over to FanDuel.com and join today, and you will get started with $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That is FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And thank you so much for joining the live show here. And we'll try to get to as many of you as possible. Second half is upcoming very soon. But thank you for spending your halftime with me on this show. Abdul Carter is just an animal, even with one arm. Absolutely. And that's what's most impressive, because do you notice how strategically they moved him over from the blind side working against the left tackle to the right side? And Abdul, that is a big change. That is a big change for anybody. And Abdul Carter has not missed a beat. Now, he is so versatile enough to where he can play strong side or weak side defensive end. But my point being is that Abdul Carter is essentially positionless. If they needed him to play linebacker in this game, he certainly could live up to the task. And that's kind of what I actually expected. I'm surprised to an extent that he is playing as that strong side defensive end where Dennis Sutton typically is. But for those two to switch sides and play slightly out of their comfort zone, and for them to have honestly more production against one of the best offensive lines that they've seen all season, kudos to them. Kudos to Tom Allen and the preparation that they put together. 30 minutes. Yes, 30 more minutes away from a national title. If we can get to it, let us know. And I don't want to look too far ahead. I don't want to start saying, oh, do we think Ohio State or Texas? Hey, it's still 10-3. This is a one-score game, so let me not get ahead of myself. We can talk about Drew Aller. Yes, Drew Aller is overthrowing every pass. Overthrows, underthrows. It is not his best game. He is nervous. I wonder what Drew Aller's personal preparation is, how much of the outside noise he blocks out, because are you listening to the ESPN broadcast? Because I'm at home for this. I'm not in Miami, did not get approved, whatever, college football playoff media credential people. But this game for Drew Aller, what was the preparation? What was the buildup to it all? Because the conversation, all the storylines are, well, Drew Aller could go into this draft. And we asked him about it, and he committed to Penn State. He said he's coming back for his senior year, but is that actually official? It seems to be a big, it's all mental. It is all mental. We know Drew can make the throws. We know Drew has the arm talent. We know that he has good footwork, and all of that is kind of breaking down here in real time, whether it's the stage, and that's a part of the game. I'm not trying to discount that in a quarterback evaluation. You need to be mentally sound, mentally tough, and he's not that right now. If Drew even makes 2 or 3 more passes in this game, Penn State is up realistically 14-3. Who knows? Maybe even more. Who knows? But Drew is not making the throws that he needs to. And it is concerning because Notre Dame is only one score away from getting right back into this game. They get the ball to start the second half. So Penn State's got to respond, especially if now the defense can certainly turn them away. We'll see. Just as I get done saying Penn State's defense has to adjust, Notre Dame's offense has to adjust as well. This goes away from the game plan that they've run all season long. But at least they have that backup quarterback at practice, so they know his tendencies and everything else, right? Aller needs to step up if the run isn't as effective in the second half. I think it will be. Andy Kotelnicki has just done such a great job the outside runs, those outside zones with Nicholas Singleton and the speed and everything that he's done to this point. It's the play calling by Andy Kotelnicki to maximize. It's Katron Allen up the middle on inside zone and then speedy Nicholas Singleton to the outside on outside zone to maximize his speed. I mean, it's been great play calling by Andy Kotelnicki. He's kind of masking some of the inconsistencies on the offense, but got to give credit to the front five, the offensive line. Drew Shelton, Venga Uwane, Sal Wormley, Nick Dawkins, Nolan Rucci, all of those guys are performing phenomenally. I was still concerned that Notre Dame's defensive ends, RJ Oben in particular, were going to have a big game. Notre Dame has had to back off of its blitzes. That's the chess match right there. Do you notice how Notre Dame isn't as aggressive with its blitzes? They are being very strategic because those screenplays are wide open for Warren, Singleton, Allen, and Andy Kotelnicki knows that. Done a fantastic job here. Andy Kotelnicki so far is the MVP of this game. Drew Aller just needs to put some touch on these passes. Needs to put some zip on him, honestly. That's why. It's that lob. He just lobbed it into Nicholas Singleton. It's a 5-yard throw. I'm not saying you laser it at him, but you have to throw it with some authority here. See, we disagree. This is kind of the debate of the moment here. Nicholas Singleton must catch that pass. I agree. As a Division I football player in your third year, you should be able to catch that pass, but in that same breath, Drew Aller is the quarterback. This isn't Tyler Warren. This isn't Trey Wallace, Amari Evans. These aren't your receivers. This is Nicholas Singleton, who we knew was more of a running back coming in than a wide receiver. Has he gotten better as a pass catcher? Absolutely. But that is not your best pass catcher. That's not even your second, your third, your fourth best pass catcher. That is one of your best athletes. You get him the football in space, he can do a lot of things. He was wide open. There was a linebacker that was not going to get to him in the flat. However, Singleton is still not the most reliable pass catcher. Drew's got to do a better. That's a 5-yard throw. If that's a 15 or a 20-yard throw, different case. That's a 5-yard throw. Drew should be able to hit that. Hello from Knoxville. Penn State looks very powerful up front on offense. Pound the rock. Thank you. I actually visited Knoxville not too long ago for a little bit of a break. Penn State had a bye week. Knoxville's a very nice place. Aller is playing awful. Big mistake not recovering that football. I was surprised Abdul Carter didn't come away with that. I don't know if it was trying to protect his arm in the moment. Again, in real time, it's tough to see, but I don't know how Carter did not come up with that because that would have been huge. And then I think Penn State could have probably gotten another 3 points there in that instance. Aller is playing awful. Or I read that one. Drew Aller is trash. He's not playing well in this game. He's not playing well in this game. We're about to get beat by a backup. I would not say that. The ground game has been so effective. I'd like to see the adjustments that Notre Dame is going to make. Stop with the excuses for Aller. Settle in. Are you serious? It's halftime. What excuses am I making for him? He's not making the passes. I'm trying to hold him accountable and say that he needs to make these throws. The excuses are, oh, Singleton dropped it. Oh, Tyler Warren didn't run a good route. Oh, Trey Wallace didn't make the catch in traffic. Those are excuses. I'd like to know what excuses I'm making here for Aller. He needs to settle in. He needs to settle down. We know that he can make these. We know that he can make these kinds of throws, and he's not. If I was Andy Kotelnicki, I'd come out with a couple dink and dunks to Tyler Warren to get Aller in the zone. And that's what he was trying to do early and often. He was trying to get him warmed up, and still Aller's just not in the zone. It's all in his head. It's all mental. If I'm Danny O'Brien, because Andy Kotelnicki's up in the press box, Danny O'Brien's got to get through to Drew. That's the biggest key to halftime here. You're right. The backup might be the best thing to happen to Notre Dame. It's the way that Penn State's game planned all week for them. I agree. Penn State needs to hit that backup repeatedly. Yes, welcome him into the Orange Bowl. Yes, make your presence known. Glad to see that Carter is playing through everything. That is big. It is absolutely, it's monstrous because the stats are so telling. I think Penn State goes from in terms of yards per play, I forget what the statistic was, but it was something along the lines of they go from it was rushing. It was in run defense. It was 2.3 yards per carry allowed to 4.2. Whoa. If that doesn't tell you Abdul Carter's value, I don't know what does. Penn State needs to continue the pound the rock, stay physical. And that's interesting, isn't it? Is that Notre Dame needs to go more finesse and Penn State needs to be more physical. They basically need to flip what they Notre Dame's the more physical team and Penn State's the balanced finesse team that can do speed and all these different types of things. But it's funny, it's ironic how Penn State needs to adopt Notre Dame's game plan and Notre Dame needs to adopt Penn State's game plan offensively, interestingly enough here. Yeah, but it's 10 points because our 5-star can't hit the broadside of a barn. Today, he picked the wrong day to make some bad throws, but it's the biggest stage. You have to be able to do it. Hey, look, I'm not selling out on Drew. It was a bad first half. Let's see how he plays in the second half. He's a 5-star quarterback for a reason. He has all the talent. It's up here. It's all mental. It is all mental. Also, why is James Franklin calling timeouts at the end of the half for Notre Dame? Make adjustments, right? They just had a completely new quarterback in. You don't want to give a touchdown up at the end of the first half there. They were moving the football and you held them to 3. That is you take the small victories there. That doesn't help Notre Dame. That makes sure that Penn State, it knows what it's doing with its X's and O's. I see tons and tons of comments here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining the show. I appreciate all of you. I see a lot of banter back and forth. I'm trying to find one that's a question or a comment about the game, and I see a bunch of different banter going back and forth here. Drew needs to take a deep breath and take a deep shot down the field and put this game away. Easier said than done. Xavier Watts is back there. Notre Dame free safety that will make a play on the football. He's probably due for an interception if Drew is going to get risky with his passes. Let's just say that a turnover. This is a 1-score game. If Notre Dame comes down and I agree with pounding the rock and playing conservative here. A 3-point victory is just as good as a 30-point victory. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. I actually agree with just running the rock and taking care of business. If you happen to win 13-10 in this game, just get to the next game. Get to the next game. Don't allow Notre Dame to capitalize, build some momentum, because you need to keep Notre Dame's offense on the sideline. Okay, now with a backup quarterback in that is more of a pocket passer, they want those drives more for him to settle in. That's a common thing here. It's a common theme. You need these quarterbacks to settle in. And for Notre Dame's quarterback that has not played all season, Riley Leonard's been the starter, and Jelly needs to get into rhythm, get some plays that he is comfortable with, and then we'll see how the game goes from there. So the second half is getting ready to start. I wish that I could have gotten all of the comments, but I really appreciate your reactions, your feedback. Enjoy the second half. Penn State leads 10-3. Notre Dame's getting the football to start, and we are going to have a squad show post-game live here, so be sure to tune in for that after this one goes final. Penn State, Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl, second half coming up, and we'll talk to you again here on Locked On Nittany Lions very soon.